This will sound very strange, but President Donald Trump and David Blaine's dive of death stunt in 2008 was a prophecy that is predicting that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash that will be caused due to a bird strike in St. Louis on precisely December 26th, 2022. The date that this video is posted proves that this prediction was made ahead of time, as does this timestamped email and forensic notes PDF. If you are skeptical, please email me and I will forward these to you. If you have already watched this introductory information, you can skip ahead to minute 41. After Harris's death, she will be replaced by Michelle Obama, and soon after, Barack Obama will replace Michelle. This is the reason why Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. It is so that Barack Obama can become the president again. It is predicted that Michelle Obama will very soon become the 47th president, and soon after that, Barack Obama will become the 48th president. In the Bible, a goat is symbolism for the Antichrist. In pop culture, goat stands for greatest of all time. Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash after her plane's engine will suffer a bird strike. As a result, the GOAT Antichrist will come to power. The GOAT of college football coaching died at the age of 61 and was born in 1961. The GOAT Antichrist was born in 1961 and will become the president again and the Antichrist at the age of 61. Coach Mike Leach won 84 games with the Texas Tech Raiders, and this year when he died at the age of 61, his team had a record of 8-4. The GOAT Antichrist was born on the date 8-4 in 1961. In the Bible, a period of 10 days is symbolism for the period of persecution from the GOAT Antichrist in the end times. It is predicted that on December 26th, Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash due to a bird strike, and it is predicted that there will be a prophetic sign that will be related to this that will occur on December 23rd, 10 days after the GOAT of college football coaching died. Coach Mike Leach was famous for leading the FBS conference in offense in 10 of his 21 seasons as a coach, and he was famous for coaching the Texas Tech Red Raiders for 10 years, and he was famous for his revolutionary air raid style of offense. The name Air Raid hints at a bird strike of Kamala Harris's airplane. On the same day that Coach Mike Leach died was the day that the hockey player for the Washington Capitals, player number 8, scored 3 goals in a game to become only the third player in history to score 800 goals in their career. The other 2 players to reach this milestone wore jersey number 9 and jersey number 99, because the number 9 is the most important number in God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, as from the Bible it symbolizes God's judgment. And God was pointing to this judgment, and he was pointing to these 2 players that wore jersey 9 and 99 through this player's 800th goal on this day. This player was awarded the MVP honor when the Washington Capitals won the Stanley Cup in their 44th season, which hinted at the 44th president in the nation's capital in Washington. His 3 goals on December 13th were in Chicago, the hometown of the 44th president. His jersey number 8 and 800 goals was to confirm that the event that is described in Revelation chapter 8, a catastrophic solar flare, coronal mass ejection from the sun, hit of the earth, will occur exactly 400 days after this on January 17th, 2024. But this will be explained in another video. This player scored 3 goals to make him the 3rd player in history to reach the career milestone on the same day of the death of the coach who coached the Red Raiders for 10 years. The reason for 3 goals to make him the 3rd player was to confirm that 10 days and then an additional 3 days from this day will be the predicted date that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash due to a bird strike. The air raid coach died 96 days after the Queen of England died at the age of 96 as a result of Kamala Harris's death in a plane crash due to a bird strike. Michelle Obama will become the Queen of America. Michelle Obama will return to the White House as a result of Harris's death in a plane crash due to a bird strike that will be 10 days after the death of the air raid coach who coached the Red Raiders for 10 years, which in turn was 97 days after she returned to the White House for the unveiling of her portrait on the date September 7th, which is 9/7 and hints at 97, because 97 is the 25th prime number, and the 25th Amendment will be used to make her the president, and then the 25th Amendment will be used to make her husband the president again. Michelle Obama will replace the 49th U.S. Vice President and then become the president as a result of the death of the 49th Vice President in a plane crash caused by a bird strike, which will be 10 days after the death of the air raid coach who coached the Red Raiders for 10 years, and this was in turn exactly 49 months after her book Becoming was released, because she will become the president. Michelle Obama will become the first female president and the 47th president as a result of Kamala Harris's death in a plane crash that will be 10 days after the death of the air raid coach who coached the Red Raiders for 10 years, which in turn was exactly 47 weeks after the death of Lucia Harris, the queen of basketball, who was the first and only woman to be drafted by the NBA, and Michelle Obama will replace Kamala Harris, the first female vice president, and then become the first female president, the 47th president, and her husband is the basketball president. The death of the GOAT of college football coaching, the air raid coach, which hints at the bird strike of Kamala Harris's airplane, died exactly 1,109 weeks after the air raid on the Twin Towers and the Pentagon on 9/11 in 2001. The number 1109 hints at 110 and 9. God pairs the numbers 110 and 9 together to point to the 110 floors of the Twin Towers that collapsed, and George Washington's walk down Wall Street after his first inauguration at Federal Hall, and into the church that was the only building at Ground Zero to have survived the falling debris due to the uprooted sycamore tree that sheltered and protected Trinity Church. In God's judgment warning to ancient Israel in the book of the prophet Isaiah 9:11 says that the buildings have collapsed and the sycamore trees have been uprooted. In what today is known as the Miracle Chapel, George Washington consecrated the nation to God, saying that if the nation were to ever turn away from God, it would lose its divine protection and blessings. Wall Street is named after the 9-foot-high wall of security that the Dutch built to keep the British and the Indians out. And in the Bible, Joshua died at the age of 110, and he led the Hebrews around the walls of security before they collapsed in God's judgment. And Joshua and the Hebrews crossed the Jordan River into the Promised Land on the date 110 in the Hebrew calendar, which hints at the number 110. God pairs the numbers 110 and 9 together to symbolize all of this. And Joshua is a type for Jesus, and Jesus' first coming was officially on the date 110 in the Hebrew calendar. 2 towers that were each 110 stories high is symbolism for Jesus' second coming. That God pairs 9 and 110 together to point to 9/11 is the reason why the iconic Air Force plane in the collapse of Afghanistan on the prophetic 20th anniversary of the collapsed 110-story buildings on 9/11 was number 1109, which hints at 110 and 9. Barack Obama will become the president again as a result of the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash, which is predicted to be 10 days after the death of the air raid coach, which was exactly 1,109 weeks after the planes crashed into the Twin Towers on 9/11. Barack Obama will become the president again as a result of the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash, which is predicted to be 10 days after the death of the air raid coach, which was exactly 90,011 days after the nation was born on July 4th, 1776. America will lose its independence 90,011 days after it established its independence. This video is also predicting that famous actor James Earl Jones, the voice of the Lion King and the voice of Darth Vader, will die on December 30th, 2022. This video is also predicting that there will be a catastrophic asteroid hit on Earth on September 2nd, 2023. This will be a fulfillment of what is described in the book of Revelation in the Bible in chapter 8. Currently at this time, there is no way of knowing where Kamala Harris plans to be on December 26th. But if her plane crash occurs in St. Louis, then another video on this channel that is titled Prediction Harris's Plane Will Crash in St. Louis on December 26th will become one of the most important videos on this channel. Once this prediction comes to pass, you should know that you need to watch every minute of every video on this channel, including every Kamala Harris prediction video and James Earl Jones prediction video. There is specific and unique and important messages from God in each of the videos. However, arguably one of the top most important Kamala Harris videos is the 1989 World Series earthquake prophecy video. I have also titled this video Church of Philadelphia Signs. In the description box below, I will leave links to these videos. It has been known since the autumn of 2020 that she will die in a plane crash. But as can be seen here in this email, it was known since August of 2021 that God was pointing to the date January 14th, 2022, in regards to Harris's death in a plane crash. The majority of this video was produced before January 14th, 2022. Prior to January 14th, 2022, the Lord was pointing to this date with an overwhelming amount of evidence through connections to other signs that involved symbolism for the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash, which is why prior to January 14th, 2022, it was assumed that this would be the day that Kamala Harris would die in a plane crash due to a bird strike. However, instead, it turned out that January 14th, 2022 was a day of prophetic signs that confirmed all of the analysis of the signs and connections that were pointing to January 14th in regards to the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash. It turned out that January 14th was another important step in the trail of signs that is ultimately leading to the day that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. Prior to January 14th, 2022, I had learned that God was also pointing to June 7th. One reason being is that it is 144 days after January 14th. I knew that if January 14th were not to be the day that Harris would die in a plane crash, then it would be expected that there would be a prophetic sign involving the number 144 on January 14th. Sure enough, we received an amazing prophetic sign involving the number 144 on January 14th, as was expected in advance. This prophetic sign involved 144 horses. The explanation of this prophetic sign, other signs that occurred on January 14th, and many, many other extremely profound things are explained in the must-watch American Pharaoh prophecy video. The American Pharaoh prophecy video is essential information, especially regarding the prediction for Kamala Harris's death in a plane crash. In the description box below this video, I will leave a link to the American Pharaoh prophecy video. The number 144 is prophetic because of the prophetic number 144,000 in the book of Revelation in the Bible. The prophetic sign on January 14th involving 144 horses confirmed adding 144 days to reach June 7th, and the relevant prophetic signs that occurred on that day, including an announcement from Kamala Harris, the 49th Vice President, regarding America's border wall of security. In the book of Joshua in the Bible, the Hebrews marched around the walls of security of the ancient city of Jericho for 7 days before they collapsed in God's judgment. On the 7th day, right before the walls collapsed, 7 Hebrew priests blew 7 trumpets that were made from horns of bighorn sheep. This is symbolism for 7 times 7 equals 49. June 7th was the 7th day after park rangers at Joshua Tree National Park closed its 49 Palms hiking trail in order to provide bighorn sheep access to water. The hiking trail is symbolism for the Hebrews' march around Jericho, and June 7th was the 7th day of its closure, which symbolized the 7 days that the Hebrews marched around Jericho in the book of Joshua. And then on the 7th day blew trumpets, which were made out of bighorn sheep horns. This trail, named 49 Palms, is near Los Angeles, the hometown of Kamala Harris, the 49th Vice President. The January 6 public hearings prophecy video will explain the most profound story that God is telling through the prophetic signs that occurred on June 7th, and also through the extremely important January 6 committee hearings. God uses 188 days, weeks, and months connections, as the 188th Hebrew word in Strong's Bible Concordance is the word meaning woe! In the Bible, this word is used in context of extreme judgment from God. As well, the number 188 is symbolism for the 9/11 judgment warning, as the second plane that hit the second tower 17 minutes after the first plane had a crew of 9 people. 17 divided by 9 equals 1.88888. On 9/11, a third plane hit the Pentagon, and the only other time in history that a foreign enemy attacked the nation's capital was exactly 188 years earlier on 9/11 in 1813, when the British landed on Washington's Mount Vernon estate and then proceeded to burn down the White House and the Capitol building. God chased the British out of Washington, D.C. that same day with a hurricane. On June 1st, 2022, park rangers at Joshua Tree National Park closed the hiking trail named 49 Palms. As was explained at the beginning of this video, the 49th U.S. Vice President is predicted to die in a plane crash on December 26th, 3 days after an expected prophetic sign that should occur on December 23rd, and this in turn will be 17 days after the prophetic signs we received on December 6th, which included a Star Trek Enterprise sign, and the serial number of the Enterprise is 1700, and December 6th was in turn 188 days after the closure of the 49 Palms Trail. This closure of this trail symbolizes the end of the trail of prophetic signs that have been leading up to the death of the 49th Vice President, who is from Los Angeles, which is near the 49 Palms Trail. The trail was closed in order to provide access to water for bighorn sheep. The trail was reopened after there was heavy rains and serious flooding in Joshua Tree National Park on August 8th. Similarly, this flooding caused closures of roads and park entrances to the park. God warned that the flood judgment would begin in 120 years. This is why the 49th U.S. Vice President will die 120 days after the flooding in Joshua Tree National Park, where the 49 Palms Trail is located. In the book of Joshua, the walls of security of the ancient city of Jericho collapsed in God's judgment after the Hebrews marched around the walls 7 times and blew 7 trumpets, which hints at 7 times 7 equals 49, and this is the symbolism in the name of the hiking trail that is 49 Palms, that is in Joshua Tree National Park. The hiking trail is symbolism for the Hebrews' march around the walls of Jericho, and the trumpets the Hebrews blew were made from bighorn sheep. In archaic English, the word trump means trumpet, or the sounding of a trumpet, which is why President Trump's presidency was synonymous with his border wall of security. This is also why on the same day as the flooding in Joshua Tree National Park and the reopening of the trail that was closed for bighorn sheep, the FBI, which is working for the spiritual enemy, breached the walls of security of Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. Again, in the book of Joshua, the Hebrews marched around the walls of security of Jericho for 7 days, and the 7th day of the closure of the 49 Palms Trail in Joshua Tree National Park was the day of the prophetic signs that occurred on June 7th. On the 7th day, 7 Hebrew priests blew 7 trumpets, which is 7 times 7. 7 times 7 days, which is 49 days, after June 7th was the day of the closure of the I-70 highway and 70 rescues by firefighters in the extremely prophetic, historic, and destructive flooding in St. Louis that pointed to the 70-mile-wide path of totality of the Great American Eclipse that passed over St. Louis and peaked right near St. Louis and ran parallel with the I-70 highway. In the book of Revelation, the book regarding end times prophecy, the number 144,000 is a very prophetic and prominent number. This flooding in St. Louis on July 26th is in turn 100 days, which is the equivalent of 144,000 minutes, before the prophetic signs that occurred on November 3rd that revealed that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis on December 26th. The reason the number 144,000 is prophetic is because of the description in the book of Revelation involving 12 times 12,000. On the same day as the prophetic flooding in St. Louis, a sudden wind storm caused Class A damage, meaning 2.5 million or more in damages, to several Navy helicopters at a base in Virginia. The prophetic significance of these helicopters is explained in the must-watch NASA Mars helicopter videos on this channel. A main aspect of the news story on this incident states that the National Weather Service issued a severe thunderstorm alert at 3:30 p.m., with a warning of winds of more than 60 miles per hour. According to the damage assessment, the high winds hit the Navy base at 3:42 p.m., 12 minutes after the initial warning. When given enough time, aircraft in the path of bad weather are taken into their hangars or tied down. However, the storm came at a time when aviation maintainers are usually in the midst of a shift change. Most of the personnel were indoors and had limited time to bring the aircraft in the hangars. In other words, the timing of the storm couldn't have been worse, and this 12 minutes warning was key. This prophetic 12 minutes warning is why this incident is a warning from God that 12 times 12,000 minutes after this 12 minutes warning was the day of the amazing and profound and extremely important prophetic signs that occurred on the penultimate date in the Trail of Signs on November 3rd that revealed that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis on December 13th. On November 3rd, which is the date 11/3, the 2022 World Series MVP hit a prophetic hit in the World Series. This prophetic hit is explained in the 1989 World Series earthquake video. On this 11/3 date, he had 11 runs in the postseason, and his jersey number is 3, which hinted at the date 11/3, which in turn hints at 11 times 3 equals 33. As well, on the date 11/3, his postseason hitting average was .333. Also, on this same day as the World Series MVP's prophetic hit and prophetic hitting average, NASA began rolling out its Artemis 1 space launch system and posted a tweet that referenced Billy Joel, who is known for his pop music hits. In his music career, Billy Joel had 33 top 40 hits. The reason for this is because God needed to point to the prophetic signs that occurred on December 6th, which was 33 days after November 3rd. And November 3rd is 11/3, which hints at 11 times 3 equals 33. And again, on November 3rd, we received the signs involving the number 33. The important signs that occurred on December 6th, including the death of Kirstie Alley, who starred in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, will be explained in another video. But one thing to note regarding this connection to December 6th and the prophetic sign that was the movie The Wrath of Khan is that, as explained in the 1989 World Series earthquake prophecy video, 33 days before this, on the date 11/3, November 3rd, we received a sign involving the attempted assassination of a politician in Pakistan named Khan. The politician named Khan was shot in South Asia. The name Khan is of South Asian origin, and Kamala Harris is of South Asian descent. As will be explained in another video, the Star Trek sign on December 6th pointed to its theme song at the beginning of Star Trek TV episodes that involves trumpets and scenes of the USS Enterprise speeding through space. The scenes in the movie Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, involves Khan's wrath, which is symbolism for God's wrath, hitting the Enterprise starship and disabling its engine, which hints at the disabled engine of Kamala Harris's Air Force Two plane due to a bird strike. Khan disguised himself in the USS Reliant starship and struck the USS Enterprise, and Starfleet starships resemble birds. The Wrath of Khan was a bird strike. The serial number of the USS Enterprise in Star Trek II is 1701, which hints at adding 17 days to this Star Trek II sign to reveal the day that Kamala Harris's Air Force Two plane will be hit by a bird strike and then crash. On November 3rd, NASA tweeted a reference to Billy Joel, who had 33 top 40 hits, and this hinted at adding 40 days to get December 13th, the day of the death of the GOAT of college football coaching, the Air Raid coach who coached the Red Raiders for 10 years, 10 days before a predicted prophetic sign will occur on December 23rd, 3 days before it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash on December 26th. As was just explained, on November 3rd, God gave us signs involving the number 33, one of them being through Houston Astros player number 3, and also on November 3rd, NASA tweeted a reference to Billy Joel, and in his career, Billy Joel had 3 songs that made it to number 1 on the chart. Player number 3 and Billy Joel's 3 number 1 songs confirm this 3 days in this trail of signs from December 23rd to December 26th. As will be explained later in this video, which is the 1989 World Series earthquake prophecy video, on November 3rd we also received 3 prophetic signs involving the number 8. The last out of the World Series game between Philadelphia and Houston, the team from Harris County, was Philadelphia player number 8, Nick Castellanos, because God is using men named Nick to identify what the Nicolaitan doctrine of our day is that Jesus said he hates and is coming to make war on with the sword of his mouth on those that preach and have the works that are a product of this doctrine, which is Reformed theology and sovereign grace and free grace, which come in the packages of Calvinism and dispensationalism, which are literally rooted in Gnosticism from the first centuries after Christ, and which both lead to the heretical doctrine of eternal security, or once saved, always saved. This Nicolaitan doctrine of our day is also the myth of imputed righteousness, as evangelicals understand this, the misunderstanding of the Bible verse, our righteousness is as filthy rags, the theology of saved by faith alone, the doctrine of the predestination of the elect, and the doctrine of all Christians will be raptured. This will be explained more in this video, but also make sure you watch the 23 church signs video on this channel. Make no mistake, the purpose of this prediction from God for Harris's crash is to prove that what I have just said is the truth. And this is a very, very big deal. The main theme in God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel, is judgment warning for the church. Please don't think that the Nicolaitan doctrine must be the doctrine of those other churches. If you are Christian, including and especially evangelical Christians, the chances are very high that you have this Nicolaitan doctrine. This doctrine that Jesus said he hates. In other words, this prediction that is from God, this video, is a warning for you. It is a warning for Christians. In other words, make sure you watch the 23 church signs video on this channel. It is a warning for the Church of Laodicea that in the Bible is contrasted with the Church of Philadelphia. The Church of Laodicea is describing the vast majority of Christians and evangelicals today. The Church of Laodicea thinks that it is in need of nothing. If you are a Christian that thinks you are in need of nothing, for example, you just love Jesus and you don't need to know about doctrine, it is difficult to warn you, but this is a warning. Make sure that you watch the 23 church signs video. On this same day, the Philadelphia Eagles football team went to a record of 8-0 for the first time in their history, with a win, coincidentally, in Houston against the football team from Harris County. And also on this same day, the GOAT of football punting, Raiders player number 8, died. In college, he wore jersey number 44, which hints at the 44th president, GOAT Antichrist. Greek letters are also numbers, and the numeric value of the name Jesus in the Greek New Testament is 888, 3 eighths. Jesus is returning to rescue his Church of Philadelphia, the only one of the 7 churches he said would be spared the tribulation and period of persecution from the Antichrist. This sign was in fact a judgment warning for the church, which Jesus will cleanse through the tribulation period. In the Bible, the Feast of Pentecost is symbolism for the church. Pentecost literally means 50th day, which is why 50 days after these 3 signs involving the number 8 will be the symbolic beginning of the tribulation period of the Antichrist, when it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. On the date 11/3, which hints at 11 times 3 equals 33, NASA issued a tweet that referenced Billy Joel, who had 33 hits, And this tweet was 33 years after Billy Joel's album Stormfront was released. His album Stormfront includes a song named We Didn't Start the Fire, and this album was released on the same day as the extremely prophetic 1989 World Series earthquake, which was known for the fires that it started in San Francisco. The song We Didn't Start the Fire is known for its fast-paced lyrics that include brief references to 118 significant political, cultural, scientific, and sporting events between 1949, the year of Joel's birth, and 1989, in a mainly chronological order. The death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash will be a significant event that will lead to the Antichrist becoming the president through replacing her during the 117th Congress, and then the Antichrist will enforce the mark of the Antichrist during the 118th Congress. This mark of the Antichrist is one of the 118 events that are listed in Billy Joel's song. The song lists 117 events, plus this one event, because this hints at the Kamala Harris event that will give rise to the Antichrist in the 117th Congress, who will then enforce the mark of the Antichrist, this one event listed in the song, during the 118th Congress. The mark of the Antichrist is the 22nd event listed in the song. The very purpose of the prediction from God for Harris's plane crash on December 13th is to prove that the mark of the Antichrist is the 22nd event listed in this song. This is because the number 22 is symbolism for the mark of the Antichrist. In Bible prophecy, it is said that if one takes the mark of the Antichrist, they will go to hell. But if they don't take this mark of the Antichrist, they will not be able to buy or sell the food that will be rationed. The inverse of the mark of the Antichrist is described in the Bible in Ezekiel chapter 9, and it would have been the Tav mark. The Tav is the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet and is the 22nd letter. The mark of the Antichrist is described in the last book of the Bible, which is the 22nd book out of 22 books in the Bible that have a total of 22 chapters. The 22nd president was the only president to serve non-consecutive terms, as he skipped the 23rd presidency of President Harrison. Similarly, the Antichrist will serve non-consecutive terms after the death of Kamala Harris, which is why the basketball president wore jersey number 23 in high school. Billy Joel was nominated for 23 Grammy Awards, and as explained in the 1989 World Series earthquake video, the 2022 World Series MVP's prophetic hit on the date 11/3 pointed to his college baseball at the University of Maine, which is named after the 23rd state to join the Union. The mark of the Antichrist is the 22nd event listed in the song, and if we count the event in the song that is listed as North Korea, South Korea, as two separate things, the mark of the Antichrist is the 23rd thing listed in the song. This is because in the song, the North Korea-South Korea event is a reference to the Korean Civil War between totalitarian socialists and anti-totalitarian socialists. And because the Antichrist, whose number is 23, will enforce the mark of the Antichrist as a political weapon as part of the totalitarian blue team's civil war on those that are anti the evil totalitarian agenda of the blue team. I haven't even scratched the surface of the explanation of the prophetic signs that occurred on November 3rd. These signs and so many other extremely important things are explained in the amazing beyond words 1989 World Series earthquake video, which I have also titled Church of Philadelphia Signs Video. Once this prediction comes to pass, you should know that you need to watch every minute of every video on this channel. And arguably, the most important Kamala Harris prediction video is the 1989 World Series earthquake prophecy video. I will leave a link in the description box below this video to the 1989 World Series earthquake prophecy video. The rest of this video will be an explanation for the trail of signs in God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections that were leading and pointing to January 14th, 2022. I will not edit the rest of this video that was produced before January 14th. Instead, I will leave this video the way it is. Again, the very important explanation for how the prophetic signs on January 14th pointed to June 7th, which is part of the trail of signs that is leading to the predicted date that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash on December 13th, is explained in the must-watch American Pharaoh prophecy video. And when I say must-watch, I mean it is one of the most important videos on this channel. Make sure you watch this amazing video. The rest of this video will explain the amazing and very important information regarding God's big picture of signs that were pointing to January 14th. God is telling many different, very important stories through his big picture of signs, which is why all of the videos on this channel should be watched. In the most important video on this channel, which is titled God's Purpose for These Predictions, I will explain the reason for why God has given me a voice through this prediction that is from God. You are making a very grave and serious error if you think you already know how I was able to know this prediction, and more importantly, if you think you already know why I was able to know this prediction. It would be very foolish for you to skip watching this most important video. You will have missed the point of this prediction. One of the purposes for this prediction is to establish that the main conclusions being stated in this video are fact. It is a serious warning for those that disagree with the things being stated in this video, and to not appreciate this is to miss entirely the point of this prediction that is from God, and it is to miss the point of this video and video channel. In the description box below, I will leave a link to the video titled God's Purpose for These Predictions. President Trump is God's trumpet that he uses to trumpet and highlight his signs. In fact, the day that Trump was born was a Sabbath day, and on the Sabbath day, Jews divide the Torah into readings that they read throughout the year on every Sabbath. And on this Sabbath day that Trump was born was the passage from the book of Numbers in which God commanded the making of the trump. In archaic English, the word trump means trumpet. This passage commanded the making of the trump, and trump was made on this day, exactly 700 days before the modern state of Israel was born. David Blaine is also another man that God uses in his signs for very profound symbolic reasons. I highly recommend the David Blaine prophecy video on this channel. President Trump and David Blaine came together in 2008, and so we can expect that this would be a prophetic sign, just simply because it was these two men. Actually, David Blaine's first stunt was called Buried Alive, which is another death symbolism here, and that was across from Trump Place on Riverside Boulevard in Manhattan as well. But they came together in this dive of death stunt, which is hinting at the dive of death that Kamala Harris will take in her plane when she crashes, which will then lead to her replacement, which will be the Antichrist, who will then shortly after replace Joe Biden as the president. On September 22, 2008, Donald Trump and Blaine announced his latest feat, the Upside Down Man, in which he planned to hang upside down without a safety net for 60 hours. On September 22nd, Blaine began his stunt dive of death, hanging over Woolman Rink in Central Park and interacting with fans by lowering himself upside down. He pulled himself up to drink fluid and restore normal circulation. Reportedly, Blaine risked blindness and other maladies in the stunt. We can see in the photo that this announcement was obviously at Trump Tower in Manhattan, which is also prophetic for Well, towers are symbolic in the Bible, and actually both of these men are involved with the 9/11 tower symbolism, come to think of it, because David Blaine was born on the day that the Twin Towers officially opened on 4/4 in 1973. And Trump is also known for saying that a tower should be built taller than the original Twin Towers. And I won't explain all of the details as to why all of that's prophetic. Also, David Blaine is famous for having broken the record for holding his breath underwater for 17 minutes. It was actually just a couple of seconds over 17 minutes. And the two towers were struck 17 minutes apart on 9/11. And also, both men are known for being from New York City. Both men were born in New York City. And for that matter, David Blaine was born in the Big Apple, and he is compared with Harry Houdini, who was born in Appleton, Wisconsin. But anyway, that's off on a tangent. Let's begin in this diagram here. On the bottom left, we have the date 9/22 in 2000 to date. This was the announcement of the dive of death stunt, which is hinting at Kamala Harris's dive of death in her plane crash in this trail of signs. The number 144 is a prominent prophetic number in the book of Revelation regarding the end times period. And exactly 144 months after this dive of death was 9/22 in 2020. And, well, first let's start with the Air Force Two sign. President or Vice President Pence had to make an emergency landing in his Air Force Two and returned to New Hampshire after a bird strike. He ended up taking a military cargo plane home back to Washington, D.C. because of this bird strike to his Air Force Two. Kamala Harris will die in her Air Force Two because of a bird strike. Okay, well, also Tesla, God uses, and Elon Musk is another man God uses in his signs for symbolic reasons. But Tesla, the company, symbolizes electricity. Nikola Tesla is famous for his electricity experiments and electricity and his lightning, his Tesla coils lightning experiments. So Tesla is symbolizing lightning. And in the Gospel of Luke, Jesus said he saw Satan falling from heaven like lightning, or rather falling like lightning from heaven, which is exactly what Kamala Harris's fall from the sky in her plane will symbolize, which again will lead to the rise of the Antichrist. Okay, this Tesla sign here, it was Battery Day when Elon Musk gave a speech regarding the ambition of the company Tesla to build cars that would cost $25,000 within 3 years. Well, this is very interesting because this was exactly 3 years, which is 36 months. And the number 36 is Antichrist symbolism in God's big picture of signs, patterns, and connections. Because the number 36 is 6 times 6, and also 2 times 18, which is 6 plus 6 plus 6. And the number 36 is the 36th triangular number is 666. And 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, all the way up to 666, 36 is equals 666. Okay, Battery Day was exactly 36 months after 9/22 in 2017, which was the day of the emergency evacuation in the middle of the night due to the threat of the dam bursting, which was damaged by Hurricane Maria. But the emergency evacuation had to be done knocking on doors in the middle of the night because of the power outage in Puerto Rico because of Hurricane Maria. And so actually this is electricity symbolism, and it's 3 years exactly to this Tesla sign, which symbolizes electricity. And the reason why that was important is because it was also the night of the Revelation 12 rapture sign, which Jesus described in book of Matthew chapter 25 as being a cry in the midnight, at the midnight hour, and that's what happened. It was the rapture sign, and it was in the midnight hour that the doors were being knocked on because of the power outage. All right. Well, anyway, Tesla Battery Day was exactly 17 months after April 22nd in 2019, which was Autonomy Day for Tesla, which regarded cars driving themselves. And so 17 months, the number 17 is actually a number God uses also to identify as Antichrist symbolism, because the Antichrist will be vanquished at the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ on the Day of Atonement, which is the 10th day of the 7th month, which 17 symbolizes. And also the beast and dragon in Bible prophecy symbolizes the Antichrist, and they have 7 heads and 10 horns, which the number 17 also symbolizes. All right, so Tesla is very important in God's big picture of signs. Tesla symbolizes many things, and this exact 17 months between Tesla Battery Day, the big event Battery Day, and Tesla Autonomy Day, a coincidental exact 17 months, is very prophetic. Autonomy Day is pointing to, hinting at artificial intelligence, which is another subject I won't get into, but it involves the mark of the Antichrist. All right, now 17 and 9 are paired together in God's signs to confirm the signs and to point and to reveal the identity of the Antichrist, who was president from 2009 until 2017 and arrived in Washington, D.C. as the senator from Illinois in the 109th Congress, studied at Columbia University while living on 109th Street, and will return to the District of Columbia as the president and Antichrist in the 117th Congress, which began in January of 2021. This exact 17 months to Tesla Day is paired with the Air Force Two plane that had the emergency landing with Vice President Mike Pence. This plane had to return land in New Hampshire, which is important because it is the 9th state to join the Union. And the number 9 is the most important number in God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, because from the Bible it symbolizes judgment. And so this exact 17 months connects with this sign in the 9th state. The plane had to return to the 9th state. Another confirmation of this, as we can see in the top of the diagram, is that it connects with 9 weeks exactly to another sign, which I will get to in a minute. But that other sign includes signs of the number 9. And so more confirmation of the connection of the 17 exact months. Now, what confirms this 144 months is this second witness here, and that's how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming matters, and that's what makes this, what is being explained on this channel, unique and different from other things, and not a product of one's imagination, because as the Bible says, second and third witnesses are required to confirm a matter. So what confirms the relevance of this 144 months, besides it being the prominent and prophetic number from the book of Revelation, is that it is broken down into this 9 years and then 36 months, 3 years, 36 months connection right here. And that's very, very important because, again, the number 9 is one of the three, it is the most important number in God's big picture of signs. And 9 years connections, there are many of them, and they are extremely prophetic, this being one of them. So again, it's exactly 9 years from the day of the announcement of Trump and Blaine's death dive stunt, exactly 9 years to this most important Revelation 12 rapture sign, the great sign in heaven that's described in Revelation chapter 12 on the same night as this Maria Dam emergency evacuation in the middle of the night, which symbolized the rapture. By the way, this Maria Dam, it was the dam damage caused by Hurricane Maria, and this was shortly after Hurricane Maria and Hurricane Joseph. The news had reported them dancing together in the open Atlantic before Maria hit Puerto Rico, and that's him hinting at the birth of Jesus, which the Revelation 12 sign depicts a birth. That's what it was depicting, a birth. And also the dam bursting would symbolize the woman's water breaking at the time of the birth. And so it's the 9 years and then this extremely prophetic 36 months to Tesla Battery Day. And again, that's electricity. And then again, this was the emergency evacuation, which symbolized the rapture, was because of the knocking on the doors in the middle of the night due to the power outage. And the dam was a power dam. All right, now the number 44 God uses to identify the identity of the Antichrist. His number is 44, the 44th president. And 44 days after Tesla Battery Day is this day here of Tesla tequila selling out in one day, went on sale. Tesla sold tequila bottles for $250 each. This is amazing. The news stories regarding this Tesla tequila is that they sold out in the one day on eBay, and they were selling each bottle for $250. And this was 44 days after Tesla Battery Day. And Tesla Battery Day was all about the big announcement that they could make cars for $25,000 with it in 3 years, 36 months, which again is the reason for the 36 months connection back. But the big announcement was the announcement that they could make at this price level of $25,000. And then 44 days later, Tesla tequila sells out for $250, hinting at the 44th president that will come to become president again through the use of the 25th Amendment. He will replace Kamala Harris as the vice president through the 25th Amendment, thus overcoming the 22nd Amendment's restriction on someone being elected to the office of president more than twice. He will be appointed instead. He will be appointed to replace Kamala Harris, and then Joe Biden will resign and he will become president. Exactly how Gerald Ford became president, the only president to not have been elected vice president or president. Also, the Antichrist, the 44th president, will be vanquished at the return of Lord Jesus Christ from the Temple Mount. And in the Bible, the number 25,000 is the main dimensional number of the temple and the Temple Mount complex that is recorded in Ezekiel. It's mentioned 14 times, this 25,000 number. And so the number 25 also symbolizes the Temple Mount, and its association with the Antichrist is what I just explained. And Tesla tequila came in bottles shaped as a lightning bolt, which is more confirmation that in God's signs, Tesla symbolizes lightning. And Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven, which in Hebrew is Barack Obama. Barack Obama's name in Hebrew means lightning from heaven, which is exactly what will be symbolized when Kamala Harris falls from the sky in her plane and then is replaced with the Antichrist. This day here also was the day of this amazing sign, which was this heron that had, coming from its neck, an eel, a huge eel. Had the heron had eaten the eel, and the eel, as a self-defense, eats through the stomach of fish, if it ever is eaten by a fish, and it comes out. Well, it ate through the esophagus of the bird. And so this giant snake eel is hanging out, way out of the heron's neck. I'll show a picture instead of just keep describing it here. Anyway, this occurred on this date of this Tesla tequila. And this is hinting at aliens. And that's another story, actually. God has actually used also the movie Aliens to communicate that the big deception in the end times will be aliens, which are, in fact, demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. And, well, that's confirmed. I can't wait to make that video to demonstrate that. But anyway, this is an alien sign, but also this occurred in Delaware, the state of Delaware, which is where Biden is from. And this is symbolizing the demon inside Biden. One more thing, Obama, when he becomes president and Antichrist, he will be a big part of the alien deception, which again, in reality, are demons disguised as aliens. Also, this bird sign in Delaware is a sign that's also pointing to the bird strike of Kamala Harris's airplane, and then the president who is from Delaware replacing her with the Antichrist. Obviously, this heron is about to die because its esophagus has been ruined. And so this bird sign, this death bird sign, connects with 44 days back again to this date here, which was also including the Air Force Two plane emergency landing due to a bird strike sign. So that's more confirmation that this heron sign is in fact pointing to the bird strike, because it connects with the 44 days to the bird strike of the Air Force Two that was had to return to the 9th state. And again, the number 9 symbolizes judgment. And this is now connecting with this 9 exact weeks. The 9th state connects with 9 weeks exactly to these signs of 9 on March 14th. The diagram is wrong here. It's not March 1st, it's March 14th. And this is explained in the Must Watch the Lion King Prophecy video. So I won't explain it, but it was 9 nominations by Queen Beyonce, who was obsessed with the number 4, her 9-year-old daughter, who was named Ivy, which is named after the Roman numeral, the number 4, sounded out Ivy. And also player number 9, the retirement announcement of Drew Brees from the New Orleans Saints, which God uses to point judgment to the American church, who is known for having won Super Bowl 44. So we had these 9s and 4s, 3 of them, signs of 9s and 4s, which is why it is 4 times 9 days after these signs here to the day Kamala Harris visited an electric bus company in High Point, North Carolina, which I will explain in a minute. Also, 9 plus 4 is 13, which in the Bible symbolizes the Antichrist. And so from these signs, it's 13 days to this extremely prophetic Passover and the epic floods in Nashville, which killed 4 people, which is part of the reason for the number 4 in these signs. And it was also the 4th tragedy to befall Nashville in the last year after the Christmas morning bombing, the derecho windstorm, and the tornado in March of 2019. And this was also the day of a church bombing in Indonesia, the country that the 44th president grew up in for 4 years. And this church bombing is one of a number of Indonesia bombing signs that are revealing the identity of the Antichrist, but also the day that the Antichrist will be vanquished in 2024 on Judgment Day, the day of the Lord. But this 4 deaths in Nashville in the 16th state, which hints at 4 times 4, was on the day of the church bombing in Indonesia, was exactly 4,444 days after the Indonesia eclipse. The eclipse on January 26th, 2009, just 6 days after the 44th president's inauguration. And the path of totality of this eclipse traversed over the Indian Ocean in line with the direction of the waves that would have emanated from Indonesia in the Indian Ocean tsunami. And the path of totality of this eclipse traversed only over the country of Indonesia and also over Jakarta. And this was all communicating the president that is from Indonesia. The 44th president that grew up for 4 years in Jakarta, and this eclipse occurred just after the 44th president's inauguration. The 44th president is the Antichrist that will persecute the church, and this is why 4,444 days after this Indonesia eclipse was the day of the church bombing in Indonesia. On the day of the 4 deaths in the 16th state, which is 4 times 4, the 4th tragedy to befall Nashville in the last year. And this was also the day of these Satan shoes. The controversy erupted in social media and the mainstream news regarding these shoes that contain a drop of real human blood. 666 pairs sold for $1,018, and the shoes make a reference to Luke 10:18, which is what the $1,018 symbolizes. And this is the passage when Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven, which again is what will be symbolized when Kamala Harris falls from the sky in her plane. The number 23 is the number God uses to reveal the identity of the Antichrist, the 44th president that wore jersey number 23 when he played basketball in high school. And this is why it is 23 days from these basketball Satan shoes to the day that Kamala Harris was visiting an electric bus company in High Point, North Carolina, where she was beginning her promotion of hers and Biden's $2.3 trillion infrastructure and jobs package. And the $2.3 trillion hints at the number 23, which is a second witness confirmation for the 23 days back to the Satan basketball shoes. And also we can see 23 weeks there. Anyway, this is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses. She visited an electric bus company in High Point because the electric bus company symbolizes lightning and High Point symbolizes heaven. Because in Isaiah chapter 14, it is said that Lucifer fell from the high place, which was a metaphor for heaven. And in ancient Israel, the Jews would conduct their false religious god worship in the high places, on the mountaintops, which was forbidden. And so that's why she visited High Point and the Electric Buzz Company, which is symbolizing Satan falling like lightning from heaven, which is why it's 23 days after the Satan shoes controversy. God uses the number 23 to reveal the identity of the Antichrist, the basketball president who wore jersey number 23 when he played basketball in high school. In the Old Testament in the Bible, it is described how 2 goats were used on the Day of Atonement in the ritual on the Temple Mount. In Bible prophecy, there are 2 antichrists, and in Bible prophecy, it is said that the Antichrist will rule the Temple Mount during the end times period. And the Antichrist will be vanquished from the Temple Mount at the return of Lord Jesus Christ on the Day of Atonement in 2024. Goat is Antichrist symbolism. Goat stands for greatest of all time. And this is why the 2 goats of basketball wore jersey number 23, Michael Jordan and LeBron James. The GOAT of basketball, Michael Jordan, played for Chicago, and the GOAT Antichrist, the basketball president, is from Chicago. LeBron James is famous for being from Cleveland and having played for Cleveland and having won the NBA Finals championship for Cleveland, breaking the supposed Cleveland sports curse, which is Antichrist King symbolism, which is why LeBron James goes by the nickname King James. And this was used to point to the president Grover Cleveland, who was the only president to serve non-consecutive terms, skipping the 23rd presidency, just like the Antichrist will serve non-consecutive terms, having skipped the 45th presidency. This is why Michael Jordan, in the exact middle of his career, after having won 3 NBA titles and before winning his other 3 NBA titles, retired briefly, and when he returned, wore jersey number 45 for coincidentally 23 games. And it is why Michael Jordan, in his last game as a Chicago Bull, another city God uses to point to the Antichrist, who is also from Chicago, scored 45 points against the team from the 45th state. Like Michael Jordan, LeBron James also played in Cleveland, then famously left Cleveland in much controversy, and then returned again to play a second time in Cleveland in order to win the championship for Cleveland and break the Cleveland sports curse, which symbolizes the Antichrist curse of Barack Obama when he will return to the White House for his second presidency, which is predicted to be on December 18th, 2022. When LeBron James returned for his second time to Cleveland, it took him 2 years to win the NBA championship. Just like when Barack Obama will return to the White House, he will be president for the 2 years leading up to the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ in 2024. God pairs the numbers 9 and 23 together in order to confirm the signs and connections and to reveal the identity of the Antichrist, the basketball president that wore jersey number 23 when he played basketball in high school and became president in 2009. From the Bible, the numbers 9 and 23 both symbolize judgment, and the number 23 is the 9th prime number. The only grandfather-grandson presidents were the 9th and 23rd presidents, William and Benjamin Harrison. The 9th president, William Harrison, died on the calendar date April 4th, 44, which hints at the 44th president. Harrison died exactly 1 month after his inauguration. The name Harrison hints at Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash due to a bird strike on November 3rd, and the Antichrist Barack Obama will rise to power and become president again through her replacement. Michelle Obama will first replace Kamala Harris, and then Barack will replace Michelle. Michelle is the feminine version of Michael, which is the reason for the name Michael in the name Michael Jordan. In the Bible, the Hebrews crossed the Jordan River into the Promised Land. Barack Obama's famous autobiography is named A Promised Land. Obama the Antichrist will promise the world a new world order utopia. A goat is Antichrist symbolism. The greatest of all time, the GOAT of basketball, Michael Jordan, wore jersey number 23 and jersey number 9 when he played for the U.S. Olympic Dream Team, a team that beat their opponents by an average of 44 points per game, which hints at the 44th president, GOAT Antichrist, that wore jersey number 23 and became president in 2009. If you have not already watched the Michael Jordan prophecy video on this channel, the Michael Jordan prophecy video is an essential video for foundational understanding of how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works. So God pairs the numbers 9 and 23 together to confirm the signs and connections and to point to Barack Obama. Harris's visit to High Point on the day that she promoted 2.3 trillion, which hinted at the number 23, was exactly 9 years. It was again 23 days after the basketball shoes, but it was exactly 9 years, which is a pairing of 9 and 23. After the day in 2010 when Vice President Joe Biden, in his Air Force Two plane, had to make an emergency landing in California, the state that Harris represented as senator, because of a bird strike. Joe Biden's plane, his Air Force Two, had a bird strike and had to make an emergency landing. And this was exactly 9 months before Harris was in High Point promoting her and Biden's 2.3 trillion jobs and infrastructure package, which was an amazing pairing of the numbers 9 and 23. And again, it confirms this 23 days connection. But also it confirms this, because going forward to the day that she will die in a plane crash due to a bird strike, it is 3 times 90 days. God uses the number 90 to symbolize the number 9, as 2.3 symbolizes 23. And this is also confirmed because the first set of 90 in this 3 times 90 days, 90 days after the 2.3 trillion, was the day of another prophetic plane crash in Boulder County, Colorado, on the 9th of Av, which is explained in other videos, including the must-watch Field of Dreams prophecy video. And also, one of the most important videos on this channel, the Return of the King prophecy video. All right, now, in between here, we have a 25 days, it was the 250,000, right, hinting at the 25th Amendment, 250 hinting at the 25th Amendment, second, third, multiple witnesses confirming the matter, that we add 25 days to this, and which also symbolizes the 25th Amendment, to get to October 17th, 2020, which was a day in advance I was expecting an explosion sign. And the reason why part of the major reason, or I should say plural reasons, why I was expecting before this date there to be an explosion sign was because of the connections involving Harrison Ford to this date, which God is using to point to Kamala Harris as well in her plane crash, Harrison Ford being famous for his aviation mishaps. But I was expecting an explosion, and lo and behold, because of the Harrison connections, and lo and behold, there was the national news story regarding the explosion in Harrisonburg, Virginia, which was 90 months after the West Texas explosion, which is part of the Boston bombing explosion signs, which is explained in other videos. And the Boston bombing was at the finish line of a marathon, and 3 people were killed. Well, in this Harrisonburg explosion, it was also at the end, at the finish line of a marathon, and 3 people were injured. It's just amazing. And this explosion in Harrisonburg is pointing to the explosion of Kamala Harris's engine due to a bird strike. Well, 23 weeks is extremely prophetic because, well, it symbolizes Pentecost, which symbolizes the church and judgment on the church, because the Feast of Pentecost, also known as the Feast of Weeks, is recorded in the Leviticus chapter 23. But 23, the number, is also a number God uses to identify the Antichrist, who is the basketball president and wore jersey number 23 when he played basketball in high school. But yeah, and also 23 weeks just happens to be exactly 44% of a year, and God uses the number 44 and 23 to identify the Antichrist. So that's another reason why 23 weeks. It's also the number 4 embedded in it. Well, the basketball president wore jersey number 23, and 23 weeks, which symbolizes the church, which the Antichrist will persecute after the Harrisonburg explosion, was the day of the Satan shoes, basketball shoes sign, which in turn is 23 days to the day that Kamala Harris was in High Point promoting the $2.3 trillion infrastructure and jobs package. And these 23 weeks and 23 days is a second witness confirming each other, right? And that makes it true. And also, again, the number 23 symbolizes the Antichrist. And because of Kamala Harris's death in a plane crash, the Antichrist will come to power. And so there you have it. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs for the gullible that will believe it because they don't have a solid biblical worldview. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. The New Age or New Spirituality or Consciousness religion is evil deception from Satan. Satan and demons will give Catholics and New Agers spiritual experiences that they think confirm for them their beliefs, but these spiritual experiences are demonic deception for those that refuse to love the truth and so be saved. There is a spiritual reality behind the material world that we see. The wages for sin is death. Sin means to miss the mark. No one is good, all have sinned. Because of sin, people are captives of the ruler of this world, Satan. People's souls belong to Satan, whose power over people is death. God took the form of a man, Jesus Christ, and paid the ransom that is owed to the ruler of this world. Through Christ's death and resurrection, he defeated sin and he overcame Satan's power in death. It is through Christ and his Spirit that it is possible for everyone to be forgiven of their sin, and we can have eternal life if we choose it. We can choose to follow Jesus out of captivity from sin and Satan, or we can choose to reject this and remain a slave to this world, sin, and to Satan. If one rejects Jesus Christ, after they die, they will pay the price for their sin in hell, and then they will die the second death, and their soul will cease to exist. Believing in Christ means much more than simple intellectual agreement. It means to repent of sin and completely commit one's life and become a willing slave to Jesus and his kingdom. Jesus said we need to be born again, which implies a death of the self and a death to this world. Believing in Jesus implies living out one's faith through taking action that typically involves risk and sacrifice. This demonstration of faith through action is what it means to have faith and to believe in Jesus. Some Christians will tell you otherwise, but they are deceived, and they ignore countless passages in the Bible. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are a Christian, once this prediction has come to pass, you should know that you are obligated to share the video that you are currently watching and to share the videos on this channel and to not ever stop sharing this video. The price you must pay for having learned this precious knowledge is to work towards letting others know about this information. And unless you are completely consumed with another ministry or have a health condition, you should know that you are obligated on a daily basis to hand out flyers that promote this video channel on street corners, car windshields, in busy parking lots, in mailboxes, or if anything, as you come across people in your daily life. For example, in the bank or in the aisles of the supermarket as you are shopping. If you are shy, you need to overcome this. Courage isn't a lack of fear, it is action in spite of it. Please contact me for the PDF file for the flyer. The main reason why many people will not agree with this statement that a Christian is obligated to work to get the news out to the world about this prediction is the bad Nicolaitan theology and doctrine that the vast majority of, quote, Christians, unquote, have, which is why the modern church, including and especially the evangelical church, is the lukewarm, stagnant church of Laodicea. And the very purpose of this prediction is to prove to these quote-unquote Christians that they have the Nicolaitan doctrine that Jesus said he hates and is coming to make war on with the sword of his mouth. Most quote-unquote Christians don't fear God, and they don't really get the Bible. And this is the primary reason and purpose for the end times period of the Antichrist. In short, it's time for those that have barely been doing anything for the kingdom to finally make some serious sacrifices that will cost them, and to do some serious work, and to use their bags of gold and produce some fruit before they are thrown into the fire. When this prediction has come to pass, it will be a very, very big bag of gold. I encourage you to use it.